Hey guys, thank you for joining today. I'm very excited for this session. I want to introduce Chara, and he is the co-founder of Revenue Hero. He used to be on the product team. He built the product at Revenue Hero in the first year. And since then, he's moved into marketing and he's doing a lot of stuff like this AI case study pipeline that he's going to be sharing today, and I'm very excited for it. So take it away, Chara.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for the intro, Ifat. Like Ifat mentioned, I spent the first year in Revenue Hero building out a product, and then did something that very few folks get to do: go to market with your product, experiment with different ways of marketing it, and communicating what the product can do to the world. And one of the things, the good problems that we ran into was we were closing so many customers so fast, but we didn't have enough social proof on our website and on our collaterals, and our SDRs started pounding us saying, "Hey, we need case studies and collateral for these verticals from these particular customers," and it was just taking us way too long. Which is what led us to experiment with the different options out there in terms of can I quickly get videos edited? How can I quickly generate case study transcripts? And do I need to hire and maintain a huge marketing team? And how do I solve for this, right? So why we built this was, like I mentioned, it was very time consuming. We were very keen on maintaining a lean marketing team. So in fact, right now we have a marketing team that's 4 people strong, of which 2 are like a video editor and a website developer. And we just have like one product marketer and me. That's our entire marketing team doing all the marketing in Revenue Hero right now, which meant we were always behind schedule in terms of getting out enough case studies on time, making sure that the quality of those case studies are consistent, on brand, um, and also just getting the case studies booked on our calendars, right? So before this process, we used to have to chase down like sales engineers and sales teams who were in touch with the customer, had context to try to book the meeting. But the meetings were always run by somebody in marketing. So it was always a game of ping pong where, we ping the sales engineer, they talk to the customer, and then they try to figure out what time works for both of us. And then it just ended up being chaotic. So we figured we have all the products we need to solve for this. And by then, there were a lot of LLM models and a lot of cool AI applications that we were able to experiment with and get to the point we're at right now, right? So this was the choice of tools or products that enabled us to build this pipeline, which allows us to churn out case studies at a pace which any marketing team would be proud of, right? We'll get to the actual numbers towards the end of the slide, but uh, it's worth it if you are part of a marketing team or a sales team and you're struggling with getting out enough case studies to convince, in pipeline deals or even your new prospects to just get on calls with you, right? So we of course use our own product, Revenue Hero, to get those case studies scheduled. Once the case studies are scheduled, we use Riverside to run the meeting or to record the case studies because they do a great job of recording the case studies in really high quality, even in cases where the internet isn't stable, and they automatically generate the transcript and make editing those videos a breeze. From Riverside, it then moves to Descript in the pipeline, where it makes you feel like a professional editor, even if you're not sure which button on the camera to click to, start recording, and that's your level of expertise when it comes to video editing. So I really love this script for that. But the PSD resistance in all of this is Claude, where as a marketer or a product marketer, if you've ever experienced the feeling of looking at a blank page and the video for the case study that just came across to your plate, and you're just trying to figure out, hey, how do I start this case study? How do I make sure that it's on brand? How do I make sure that it has enough content and it's interesting enough? You'll know why Cloud is really, really powerful, right? So we'll go through the process in each one of these steps. So where Revenue Hero helps us in speeding up our case studies and building a consistent pipeline of case studies is we now send out a customized case study scheduling page to our customers through our sales engineers anytime we feel like our customers are ready to talk to us, right? Now, the advantage of doing this is one of the most common issues with getting case study calls scheduled is your customers aren't sure about what to expect in that call, right? What kind of questions are they going to get? Right? What should they prepare for the call? But the most tricky part of all of this is when they're free to book the meetings, right? So now we coordinate this entire process through Revenue Hero on our custom booking pages, where the sales engineer shares it with the prospect, or you use a HubSpot or a marketing automation products sequence to just send out like a campaign with a meeting link in it. And prospects who are ready to talk to you, or rather customers who are ready to talk to you, are able to book time to share their story with your product about your product at their own convenience, and they're already prepped for the case study with steps about what's going to happen next, right? And the moment they book a meeting, they get an email that tells them the kind of questions they're going to receive, when the meeting is, the duration for the meeting, and really prepares them for the conversation. And the best part is all of this is auto-generated along with the link uh, through which the case study is going to be going to be recorded, right? In our case, we use Riverside, which is an amazing product. We'll get to how and why we use it, but Revenue Hero automates that entire process of actually getting the meeting scheduled on the calendar, sending them the Riverside link to book the case study, and also all the follow-up emails and reminders for case studies. Because if you're in product marketing or just you're a generalist marketer trying to get wear multiple hats, the one thing that is true is for some reason customers just love rescheduling case studies, right? Like you book a case study for a couple of weeks, you're all excited, you're waiting for them to join, and then just an hour before the call, you're like, you write to them, and then they're like, hey, I forgot that this was even scheduled, I need to reschedule. And of course it makes sense because they're giving you their time, and unless you're on top of it, you keep confirming it, it's only natural for them to want to move it around because it's probably not important enough. So with Revenue Hero automated reminders on emails, on SMSs, you make sure that your prospects are aware. And if they need to reschedule, you get to know that a lot earlier. And you even provide them like a self-service rescheduling option. So you're not wasting your time expecting for the case study to happen. Now, the one other thing that seems like a very simple nuance, but we still do this manually because you can automate so much, but that manual email sent out from a person still has its effect, is we send out a very detailed and a very simple document which speaks about what we want to cover about Revenue Hero, about the company, about the person who's taking the case study in the form of a PDF or a document to the person who's about to join the call, right? So this is we just covered how we set up the meeting flow to get the case study scheduled and reminders sent out to the customer, but also the prep questions that are sent out before the meeting to make sure that you get everything that you need for the case study to be convincing enough for the rest of your customers, right? Now, once the meeting is scheduled, you now have the actual recording process. And this is where we rely on Riverside because the product makes it seem like you have a professional setup going, with the way they upload the video while you're recording the case study, the clarity in terms of the audio that they powered with their product. God knows what magic they're doing in the background, but no matter what equipment you're on, your case studies tend to sound crisp. The video looks great. And the best part about all of this is once you're done recording your case study on Riverside, you're able to edit yourselves out of the case study entirely with just a single click, right? What I mean by that is, let's say you're talking to a customer, in an industry that's very relevant to your ICP, the role of the person is really relevant, and they have a lot of nice things to say about your product or your service. the folks are going to look at the case study and the folks are going to consume that case study aren't really interested in what you have to say. They're more interested in what your prospect or rather your customer has to say about your product and about your service. So in most case studies, the host and the stuff that the host says typically doesn't matter. And this is one of the things that takes a long time. If you send it over to a video editor and say, hey, just remove everything that I've said, add transitions in, make sure that we focus on the customer and make it seem like a continuous or rather a coherent set of videos, just with the customer talking with relevant questions transitioning in, right? Now, for that to happen with Riverside, all I need to do is switch on or rather turn off a toggle, and it just magically removes my part of the case study, right? And entirely retains just the part of the case study where your prospects or rather your customers talking along with the transcript of that entire video, right? So they also have a lot of cool features like removing filler words and smoothing the entire conversation. So it's a really cool video editing tool that helps us get through the recording process and the process of initial video edits where I want to remove myself from the conversation and just focus on the customer, right? So and I know that there's a lot of information and a lot of products that I'm walking through. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop it in the chat conversation and or rather the Q&A section, and I'll be more than glad to answer them as and when I look at it or towards the end of the session, right? So other minute things that really helps us standardize our case study and speed up the process is we have a standard introductory script, which is based off of the case study document that we share with all our customers, right? Just before the call and through our reminders. And we also try to keep the host for all our case studies the same person, merely because the way you prompt a customer and the kind of questions you ask dictates the kind of content you get. More close-ended questions where you're just asking them a kind of question that typically gets you a yes or no answer means you have a much shorter case study, much less pithy, and you're probably not going to get a lot of mileage out of it in terms of who you're able to send it to, how effective it is, and so on. So we have a single person hosting most of our case studies, and the best part is if they're not available, with the Revenue Hero link that we send out, we're always able to look up the owner of that particular company through a custom ownership field and show their availability as a fallback to make sure that we still have the case study scheduled on the calendar and we have somebody who's able to host it, right? And Riverside also automatically gives us a transcription, right, of the interview. So, or rather, the transcript of the interview. So we don't necessarily have to listen to the whole thing and generate the transcript. So Riverside helps us with recording the case study, removing the host, and even the transcript. But we don't just stop there. So from Riverside, the pipeline for our case study generation is next to go on ahead and move it to Descript. And the reason we do Descript is because the quality of transcripts from Descript is much more accurate, right? With Riverside, everything that we spoke so far about is really, really top notch, but Descript still gives us the most accurate like transcripts and allows us to edit those transcripts like magic, right? So I'm just going to pick up another example. So there are a lot of instances where you might have Revenue Hero spelled wrong or just transcribed wrong because it's not a very common word. So if at any point in time it was spelled wrong, I could just go on and correct it and say this is right. But in the case where it was spelled wrong or just pronounced wrong, in some cases it just says 7 hero or something of those sorts. So I can just correct it. And the best part is I can correct that occurrence across every single place where it was wrong. And so that makes it feel like you're able to go through a process that typically probably takes like 2 or 3 hours to just like a couple of minutes, where you've corrected your entire transcript and ensure that names of products, names of features are all correct across your transcript, right? So we do that with Descript, and we also take care of removing filler words, shortening gaps where if throughout the case study, your prospect or rather your customer has to take some time to think about a feature of yours or a result that it drove. They have the time to do that, and you're able to just edit it out with just a click, right? Instead of you actually having to go on ahead and search for each gap on the transcript and then have your video editor edit it out, right? So Descript helps us ensure that one, you get really accurate transcripts. Two, you're able to remove filler words and do all the magic that you typically rely on a video editor for. And the third thing is you're also able to maintain a very consistent template because Descript's editing features are really, really easy. It makes somebody who's as much of an amateur as me in video editing feel like I'm able to quickly put together the conversation in a particular order. So it feels like it's a coherent flow throughout, right? So I know that's a lot of just me talking. So I'm going to take a couple of questions on chat, right? So one of them is, how do you ask customers if they're open to participating in a case study? So the way we do this is in terms of if they're open to participating in a case study is two things. One, we try to, so with our product, we have certain metrics that let us know that a customer is using our product consistently and is seeing good results. We have an internal tool that tells us usage of our product trends, whether they're using it well, whether there's a dip in usage, etc. So we use that as a signal to either reach out directly to the customer as a marketing team or use our sales engineering or sales teams to have a conversation with them about how happy they are with our product, whether there are any open questions, open support tickets. And if the answer to all of that is positive, then prompt them to understand whether they've seen enough, they've seen enough impact from our product and our customer support to then ask them whether they're open to participating in a case study. And that's the formula that's worked out well for us, right? And the default accepted process is we wait at least a month after somebody's become a Revenue Hero customer before we reach out to them for a case study because with our product's implementation time and time to see impact, we feel like a month is a good enough timeline before which we feel confident to reach out to ask if they're open to participating in a case study. And it's of course dependent on how happy they've been, whether they have open support tickets, right, and whether they're the precursor to a case study is always a G2 review, much lower effort. Right, it's just a couple of lines that they need to type out and go through the process. So if they're open to all of this, then we know that they're probably open to participating in a case study. And like I said, as part of our case study scheduling process, we let them know that this is also going to be used, to record a video testimonial. So on that call, depending on how the conversation goes, we'll either make it a full-blown video testimonial and case study, or we'll just use it to generate like quotes that we use on the website and other assets, right? So it's a combination of have they been a customer long enough? Are they happy with the product? Is the product driving results? And are they willing to share like a G2 review or a lower commitment form of testimonial before actually asking them if they're ready for a case study, right? So I hope that answers the question. If not, just let me know. So I'm going to move on ahead and talk about the next step, which is the most interesting part, at least in my head, right? Which is, so you've recorded the case study, you have the video, and you've now sent it to your video editor just to create like the transitions, and pop in your questions that you asked during the case study with like fancy transitions in text and so on. And again, to do this, if you're able to maintain a base case study template, so you can check out Revenue Heroes case studies. All our case studies have a very common format in terms of the way we start the introduction. And the way we ask about their go-to-market motion, um, the kind of questions that we ask. The video template is very consistent. All our case studies look the same in that the way the questions transitions into the screen, and the order of the case study is pretty consistent. So if as a customer you're going through multiple case studies, you know exactly where to scroll to get your specific questions answered, right? So maintain a base template that your customers, or rather your your video developer or your video editor can use. So for each case study, they're just able to change kind of the words that transition in and out of the screen, and you don't have to reinvent that over and over again, because that's one of the most time-consuming parts of generating case studies, right? Now, moving on to my favorite part, and the part that's most AI assisted and the most AI heavy, is the way we use Claude to now write up the entire case study in less than a couple of minutes to generate the first draft. And from there, a maximum of like 2 hours to get a version that's actually production ready to go out as a blog post on your case study page, on your resources page, and whatever other format you typically share case studies in, right? So the first most important piece in setting this up is creating a Claude project, which is available on the like base plan, where you create a project where you upload as much context as possible. So Claude is able to generate case studies in your style, right? Now, depending on which stage of company you're in, you either have some case studies that already perform really well with your prospects, that your SDRs are already sharing, and they're saying that it resonates really well, or you're probably starting from scratch. You don't have enough case studies to share, and all you have is different pages on your website or LinkedIn posts that your founders have posted and gets a lot of traction, or just a lot of product marketing content, which is consistent with your brand template and the kind of content that you want to produce, right? Depending on what you have, upload as much content as you can to Claude, right? And if you already have case studies, upload those. And what you'll be able to arrive at is a brand guideline based on all of this, right? Like upload all the content you have to Claude in a project and ask Claude to generate a brand wise guideline. And it'll do a great job of telling you, okay, based on your product marketing content so far, based on the LinkedIn posts that get a lot of traction, based on the content that you already have or the case studies you already have, this seems like your brand wise. You can play around with it, get your founders involved, get your marketing leaders involved, right? Or use your own brand guidelines that you've been working with to tinker this down to a point where it actually resonates your philosophies when it comes to marketing, when it comes to content, when it comes to what your brand stands for, and upload this brand guideline back to Claude, right? So what you'll end up with is a project which has a lot of context, right? So this is my actual Revenue Hero Claude project to generate case studies, right? Once you uploaded a brand wise guideline, once you uploaded enough context, what you now get is pretty much a case study generation engine, where the next step is to just upload the transcript that Descript generated to your Claude project, right? Now, the transcript has your customer talking about their experience with your product, the return on investments they've seen, the before after picture, right? Like I said, we try to cover impact on conversions, impact on data sanity, impact on no-show on pipeline, right? And we also ask them about whether they evaluated any other tools, top factors in choosing Revenue Hero over other tools, and how our product compares to others, right? So it's a good chunk of the crux of what a case study should cover. And when you've gone through all of this in a conversation and you've generated the transcript using Claude, or rather using Descript, you now have a really powerful case study generation engine. So now I'm going to attempt something that's a little tricky, where I'm going to use my case study project in Claude to actually generate a case study that we recorded earlier, right? So this is the actual process that I go through to upload case studies with text and videos. So I've uploaded the Curve Tools transcript onto Claude, which is an actual case study that we recorded. We have our brand guidelines uploaded to Claude. So I've asked Claude to generate the case study based on the transcript that was uploaded and based on the brand guidelines that I've uploaded. And this is how it goes, right? So this actually is from the conversation that I had. Now it's following my structure of start with an actual pain point that the customer faced, make an introduction about the company, right? Talk about the challenges of the prospect, right? And then get into the solution, right? Talk about specific problems. Don't make it generic, where you just say, hey, we superpowered their meeting booking workflow or we turbocharged something. And this actually looks pretty good based on the conversation I've had with this customer. And this is actually good enough for me to at least do a first draft. And I would actually say almost get it as close to production and getting it published on our website, right? So uh, I'm going to quickly go back to the steps and the products that we use. So Revenue Hero to schedule the actual case study, remind them of the case study, make sure that the outcomes and the activity for the case study booking is logged into your CRM. Riverside to record it and remove everything that you've said as a host from the recording. Descript to do all the magic in terms of editing, fillers, wherever you blurted out certain words or your customer takes some time to talk about results. And then Claude, where you get the actual magic of uploading the transcript that you've gotten from this entire process to generate the draft. And from here, of course, if you generate the case study as an artifact, you can edit specific parts of the case study, right? And you don't have to keep regenerating the whole thing. You can say, make it more result oriented, for example, right? And Claude will actually rewrite this part based on your prompt. And you can, just like you would add comments that then a product marketer updates on your case study, you can actually have Claude rewrite all of this, but with the benefit of consistent brand voice, writing it in your style, writing it based on case studies that have worked best earlier. And you get to do this to different sections of your generated case study, and you have it ready to go in production, right? So once you've done the human review and you have it ready for production, you're ready to go live. So these were our results, right? We used to take anywhere from weeks all the way to multiple weeks to generate multiple case studies. And it's gone down to 48 hours. When I say 48 hours, I'm still adding in a lot of buffer in terms of probably a really long, tricky case study, multiple edits on the videos. But the real turnaround time for a case study for me, as long as the video is ready, is actually just a few hours, right? And in terms of writing up the case study, like instead of staring at a blank slate and trying to, just generate ideas to make it sound creative, make it sound pithy, it's actually just an hour. And that's from transcript upload all the way through to production ready case study content that can be uploaded to your blog post or to your resources section on your website, right? And the video edit time, again, because of Descript, because of Riverside, is just a couple of hours, which is use a standard template, send it to your video editor, just tell them what questions to transition in and out of your case study flow, and you'll have a case study ready in like 3 hours at most, right? Like the 48 hours is worst case if something goes horribly wrong and you need to do everything from scratch. But if not, you'll actually be able to go from recorded case study available on your studio to published case study in like a couple of hours to like 3 hours, right? So there are a couple of questions. One is any tips on pre-interview part, as in getting a pipeline of actual interviews, potential case studies. Would love to have more customers willing to create a case study with us. I think very similar to the previous question, right? In terms of just, hey, how do I line up more of these case studies? So two things that have worked out for us. One, very unique to our situation. our customer support is on Slack, and all our conversations happen on Slack. And when we prompt, so the timing at which we prompt a customer for a case study is, like I said, at least 1 month after usage, willing to give you a shorter blurb in terms of like a G2 review or something that's a little more low effort. And the third thing that's just a human element to it is, if you've just gotten on a call with them, help them solve a problem in your product, or just help them out with a workflow that's probably not in your product, but helps them out in like a workflow that's adjacent to your product, and you've just been helpful, that's the time at which we ask for a case study, and it's just natural for them to agree. And one of the things that's also helped us keep that case study pipeline filled up is using the Revenue Hero link to book the case study meeting. Because when you just get verbal commitment and they say, hey, I'm available at this date, at this time, and you need to check with your product marketer or your marketing team to get that case study book, by the time you get back to them, the time's probably already changed. So getting them to do that self-serve case study scheduling process has also been major for us to just line it up on the calendar, have all those automated reminders sent out to get more of them to show up and more of them to participate. But I wouldn't discount the human element of when you ask for it, right? Make sure that they're happy with your product, consistent usage. And best part is, if you've recently resolved like a support ticket and they've had a really great experience in that resolution, that I would say is the best time to ask them for a case study and have the human element of gratitude and just an amazing experience, like propel the possibility of them agreeing to a case study, right? So um, in terms of what we've learned throughout this process, the first thing is that invest in a template, like the template for what a case study conversation is going to look like, all right? And what a good case study is for your company. All of these templates really, really help Claude understand how to write your case studies, what goes, what shouldn't be there, what kind of tone to use, etc. Right? And if it's possible, try to have the same person host your case studies, or rather be the host on the case study, asking questions the same way, because over time that person learns in terms of what are close-ended questions that get you really short answers that you're not able to use in a case study, what are open-ended conversational questions that get you a chunky pithy case study that your SDRs can use in other conversations, and document all of these successful ones, re-upload it to Claude, right? Even if it's generated by Claude, just put it back into the project, because the more context the better. And this sounds very simple, but unless you send out reminders for case studies, you're just like sales. Unless you're constantly reminding them to show up, you're just not going to have enough case studies recorded and ready to go live, right? So I'll also take the other question that's on chat about using Chat GPT instead of Claude. Could you share why you prefer Claude? So one of the things I've observed I've experimented with both. Claude just seems to be better at writing than analysis, or troubleshooting, or giving instructions. So ChatGPT for us has worked out better if we want to do analysis on a document, or we want instructions for troubleshooting something, right? Like Claude, with its project and with its artifacts, and um, with the amount of context you're able to upload to it, just seems better at writing content that human beings consume, right? More than generating like code, or generating like output that's better for machines or for a website to build websites or build code. So as a marketer, if I want to generate content that human beings can consume, or if I were to rely on an AI assistant that writes like me, is able to imbibe my tone, my way of writing things, and my creativity, I would say Claude is a lot better. It is, at the end of the day, a very subjective call, but I've heard this over and over again on conversations with multiple marketers, where the way ChatGPT writes feels a little more robotic and feels a little more attuned for a computer or a system more than a human being to consume, right? And the window for creativity in ChatGPT seems to be pretty low. It seems to be built more towards analysis and more towards um, systematic writing, more than like creative style of writing, right? So That's the reason I always use Claude over ChatGPT, right? So the only project doc use. Okay, the question about the brand guidelines and past case studies, the only project docs you use to get a good first draft. Not really, because when I started out, the way I generated my first few case studies was I'd posted a lot on LinkedIn, right? Not as much as I'd like to, but enough, right? Both on my handle and from my company handle. So the way I started out my Claude project was I just uploaded all of my LinkedIn posts and all of my company LinkedIn posts, because by the time content hits our LinkedIn company handle or my handle, it's already reviewed, it's already in the in the style that we want to use, and use the kind of words that resonates, that's consistent with our brand and our style and the way we want to communicate and what we want to avoid. For example, never take direct stabs at a competitor, don't mention their name, right? Just talk about our product, our strengths. So a lot of thought goes into our LinkedIn posts, our blog posts, whether it's on your company handle or on your own handle, right? So my first case study generated using Claude was I uploaded all my LinkedIn posts. I uploaded a document that I wrote about Revenue Hero and like an about us, which was like, hey, why did we start Revenue Hero? Who are we as people? What is our vision as a product and a company? That was the project context that I uploaded. And then a lot of Revenue Hero feature help documentation. So I uploaded all of this, and then like uploaded a case study transcript and said, hey, write this case study based on all the features that I've uploaded and the LinkedIn post that I've uploaded. Talk about features and talk about benefits instead of features. Avoid these jargons. Gave it a list and hit enter. It actually did a really great job of writing the case study just like I would. And from there, kind of tinkered that case study to a point where it felt I was satisfied with it. Published it, and then upload the published version back to Claude to say, hey, this is an example of a good case study, right? So if you have a lot of LinkedIn content, if you have a lot of your founders writing blog posts that you feel resonates with your brand and your brand guidelines, go ahead and upload all of those. It's just that to get from that content to the kind of case studies you want to upload might be a little bit of work, but that initial work is definitely worth it, because instead of just starting from scratch and writing a case studies or trying to wait until a good amount of cases have been published to start doing this would be too late, right? Like the idea of uploading context to your project is purely just to get Claude to write in a way that resonates for your ICP, which if you already have marketing going on for your company and you're converting prospects into customers, you already have some writing style, some content style that's working. Just pick up all of that, upload it, and ask Claude to use it just to stick to a writing style and tone. But when you generate the actual case study, say, hey, write in that tone, but follow these guidelines, right? Avoid these jargons, talk about benefits, whatever you feel like your product marketing guidelines are. And that's a good enough start for, generating your first few case studies. And then once you upload all of that, then you can ask Claude to generate your brand guideline and kind of keep prompting it and keep editing it to get to a point where you have a common brand guideline document that can be used by everybody in your company, right? So I would say that's your baseline to start off of. What's the best way to create effective brand templates? So I think apart from everything that we just spoke about, I think the most effective way would just be to talk to your customers, ask them, go through your G2 reviews, right? Go to your Fireflies calls and just look for the adjectives they use when they talk about your product, about your customer support, about the people that they work with. Because at the end of the day, our brand templates are, when I read through it, it's actually very derivative from all of those conversations. The way we write our case studies, the way we write any form of content, what I've realized is actually reflected in the conversations we've had with our customers or the way they write about us in G2, right? I would also say talk to your founders, talk to BU heads, talk to VPs, folks who pretty much tend to set the tone of your brand inevitably, right? Because they will also have inputs about what they want to avoid, what they want to test, and what they want to experiment with. Incorporate all of this, but you don't really have to write a brand guideline as such. Just use all of these as input where you say, hey, whenever our customers talk about us, these are the words they use most commonly, right? And these are all the G2 reviews that we've gotten as a company. And upload redacted internal documentation where you have communication going on about how you want to approach let's say customer support, or what your culture document is. Upload all of these, make sure that it's redacted, make sure that all PII is removed, any company sensitive information is removed, and you can just play around with Claude to actually get to a brand template. Because if you all you want is like a framework or like a outline for a brand template, you can just straight up ask Claude and it'll generate brand templates that are good enough, where it's just an outline where it says, hey, your brand template should cover all of this, consistency of tone, what to avoid, what not to avoid, and then filling it in with your company context. You can rely on everything that we just spoke about, right? Just in terms of brand templates. So just to summarize everything that we spoke about in terms of how to generate an effective case study generation pipeline. One, make sure that you're automating the meeting scheduling for the case studies, because if you're just getting verbal commitment from your prospects or your customers, actually getting them to the case study is going to be a struggle. Make sure that you automate that process, send out enough reminders with enough context to either get them to reschedule it where they realize that, hey, it's going to take them longer, or they don't have enough context or enough results to talk about. Whatever it is, it's always better to get to know that before the day of or the hour of the case study, right? Create a master template, keep editing it based on the case studies that work. Have a consistent case study interview document that you're able to share with your customers, because it's always better to have like a GPS for that conversation that kind of helps them navigate the conversation rather than them just trying to say things offshoot on that call. Usually it tends to wander off into a different direction. Um, Make sure that you have a simple video template that you're just able to change around for each case study, and use Claude with enough context to go on ahead and generate a case study in like a couple of minutes. And you'll probably have hundreds of case studies, and your SDRs never come back to you saying, hey, I'm trying to convince this prospect, why don't I have this case study for this industry, right? So I think I'm on time. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me at on LinkedIn. Uh, I've been told multiple times that my name's pretty unique, so you can just search for Charanyan and you'll see my profile popping up, and I'm more than glad to have a conversation with any of you, right? So you have any other questions? More than glad to answer that in the time we have.
Amazing. Let's see if we got any questions, but just wanted to thank you so much for this great session. I loved how actionable it was, and thank you everyone for all the great questions in the chat.
All right. Thanks a lot for having me, Ifit, and I hope this is helpful.
Thank you guys.